Oh, really? No, I heard you.
Okay.
I don't think I have it.
You don't now. Ah, that's the issue. They're open to them.
They haven't put them back.
Oh, these aren't.
Yeah, that's what I was just telling. Like, none of these have.
Put batteries in.
There's none of them have.
I don't think they put the batteries in. Got no batteries.
Tim's got them all back here.
Does he?
Yeah, he usually puts them all in.
You're welcome.
Hey, thanks for that one, test. But it wasn't too hard to solve the mystery, you know?
Well, I sat there wondering why they wouldn't have screwed them back together.
That's okay. Well, I
I need to
just,
put batteries in.
I'm like, are these new? Because of like how deep they were.
If you want to speed the process, grab your mic and pull it out so you can battery in quickly.
Did I call him?
Nope, the blue. Nope, just the blue part. There you go.
Oh, well, or you get 2 pink. I'll get 4. The rest are home. Sorry.
Set it out there, they'll
Could have been mine.
battery them up real quick.
Mascara.
Just open this up with it without Dave, huh?
He's out front, I guess, talking.
Oh, do you know that?
That's what Lindsay just.
Keating needs one and I do. Thank you. And I bet you.
Hey, I came in on the minute, so.
Aaron, does that other one need batteries?
No, we are using,
Hardwired.
it's a hardwired one.
Okay.
Willie.
Definitely.
We're live.
Can I turn you on?
I did.
Backwards? Positive? No, the screen says positive.
Right next to me.
You take such good care of me.
Yeah, hers is not live. Well, hey there.
I'm like all over the place. Batteries. They're good. There it goes.
Takes a minute.
Yours working, sir? Did you
Yes,
try it?
ma'am.
Oh, that's
Can you screw it up?
No, right here. Just, yeah.
constantly.
Everyone live?
I got it.
Welcome everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Roll call? Uh-oh,
I had hit the recorder.
maybe not.
Not quite. All right, Barkley. Here. Bates.
Here.
Kimbrell. Here. Patterson. Here. Rusterholz.
Here. Okay, if everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Kelly, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take a moment of silence, please. Thank you. The preamble to the, sorry folks, I'm a little under the weather, might be squeaky. The preamble to the Constitution of the State of Colorado. We, the people of Colorado, with profound reverence for the supreme ruler of the universe, in order to form a more independent and perfect government, establish justice, ensure tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the state of Colorado. Thank you. Okay. Do I have a motion for an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Barclay.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Kimbrell. Aye. Patterson.
Aye.
Rusterholz.
Aye.
Okay, we've come to the public agenda time. Let me read this for you, please. Public comment. Please be aware that any personnel or individual student matters are considered confidential under Colorado law. And it is out of respect of the law and our employees and students that we require those discussions take place privately in executive session. Individual comments are limited to 3 minutes or a total of 15 minutes total for a particular topic. The intent of public comment is to give the Board of Education the opportunity to hear your comments. However, the board will make no decision or take no action on public comments during the meeting. We have a new timer here, and it is going to make an audible sound when the 3 minutes are up, so keep that in mind. We finally put a timer in up at the Republican Central Committee, and all of a sudden it came into order. It was wonderful. Okay, Kelly, first speaker.
We have 8 speakers, so within our time allotted, everyone will get to speak. We'll just do it in random order. Perfect. Number 2, Carl Anderson.
How'd you pull that off, Mr. Anderson?
Speaking of timers.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate this opportunity. I'd just like to say that for many, many years, dozen plus, I've been a supporter of this community school district, really 20 plus years I've been in business here, about 22 years I've lived here. I've supported this school district through many administrations, many boards. And I happened to be at a dinner last week, sitting with a couple with their teenage daughter. And I got a report from this person that I found disturbing. This young lady in her senior year left Woodland Park High School because she was being harassed by teachers of her political views. She supported this school board. Barclay, you're now a part of this school board, remember that. I find that disturbing. She's leaving state to go to college next fall to get away from Woodland Park and the harassment that she's had. I think a student should walk in this building and be a safe place, that her opinions are her own, and that she should not be harassed by them, he or her, be harassed for having those opinions. So I'd like to know, as our school board, do we approve of our teachers harassing students about their political opinions? I hope the answer is no. I don't expect an answer here because you said you would not get one, but I find that disturbing. This young lady left the school district in her senior year because she did not feel safe here because of the harassment. I haven't come before you before, but I was pretty disturbed by this conversation I got to have with this young lady. And I will say, many of you know I'm the chairman of the Teller County Republican Party. And I don't care if you're on the right, the left, anywhere in the middle. You should not be harassing students in a school district or classroom. And if one of mine is harassing students, I will have words with them. Ms. Barclay, it's a good chance it was supporters of yours that harassed a student. Take it to heart. I have the right to say that. Boo me if you like. So anyway, I think that's something that needs to be dealt with. Our teachers should not be harassing the students, okay? My business has been harassed for years for my political opinions and my support of different objects. I understand there's somebody in the community now harassing my business again for my support of this school district. Have a nice day. That's all I got to say. Good luck. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
All right, the next is number 3, Corey, is it Madden?
Yeah, it is. I'm not gonna go up right now.
It's.
No, I don't know.
I
I get
think,
it. I'm yielding my time to someone else. Yeah, go to the next one.
All right, the next is Shannon Anderson.
Good evening. My name is Shannon Anderson. I have twin boys who are freshmen. One attends the high school and one attends Merritt. Carl Anderson and I have lived and worked and volunteered in this community for over 20 years. We have been one of the biggest supporters of the school board. As you all should be aware, there is a lack of communication from the district about the changes that are happening. Many of these changes, such as the middle school and Gateway, should have been communicated with parents in person. Instead, these topics were sent via email, further dividing the community and intensifying the negativity towards the district. Prior to WIT, the district held meetings with parents and community leaders. I know this because I attended them. Prior to WIT, the district would speak at city council meetings. This was to inform the taxpayers of how their hard-earned money was being spent. There was a common courtesy and a will to work together. Sheriff Meisel and Chief Deisler have regular town halls. There are state of the city and state of the county meetings for the community. Even the fire and ambulance districts have informational meetings. Why do they do this? Because it is the right thing to do for the community. I have reached out to you all twice now. I want to thank Bates, Kimbrell, Barkley, and Patterson for responding. Mr. Witt, I have reached out via phone and email multiple times with no response. Communication is key. We all know this. Many of you are past business owners and community leaders. Communication can make or break a business. Right now, your business is breaking. You are losing your supporters. I would now like to speak on the recent attacks of local businesses via Facebook, including our business, Anderson Enterprises, because we support you guys. Ms. Morris, we are Anderson Enterprises, and we are committed to this community. We have donated to and sponsored to different organizations within this community for over 20 years. We have given to numerous organizations. Just this past Saturday, Carl, myself, and my boys spent hours clearing snow at Summit so that school could open on Monday. I have not heard a thank you from anybody except Jason Ferris. We are board members for Kiwanis to help children of Teller County. We volunteer in the classroom for junior achievement. Some of the other businesses that Ms. Morris has attacked alongside us is Ground Control, Crippen's Processing, Aspen Interiors, and Hatton Beef. All of these businesses support so much of our community. We do not take lightly being attacked by someone who knows nothing about us. You, Ms. Morris, will not hurt our businesses. You will only further divide this community. We will continue to support our school district, even if we do not see eye to eye with everyone or everything, because we support our kids.
Next is Alicia Strupp.
Hi there. I had to write it all down so I could keep my thoughts straight. I've been staring at this paper for a long time, and it took me a long time to decide what to say. I'll probably get very emotional, and I know in the end that you don't care about what I say, but I will say it anyways. I can't sit by and continue to watch my town, my schools, and my community be torched to the ground. I grew up here. I have been here since 1986. My mom and dad graduated from Woodland Park High School. My husband and I met there. We are graduates of Woodland Park High School. And I always planned for my 2 kids to be the next generation of Woodland Park High School graduates. And unfortunately, that has all changed with you. And I just honestly don't know if that's going to happen. I went to Gateway. My daughter goes there now. My son is going to be a part of your very sick experiment to send the 8th graders to the high school, along with 200 other students. And for what purpose? Nothing but to make room for your favorites. I want, it's not our fault that Merritt moved to Woodland Park and started a school without a plan. I went to all the meetings and I found out there was no plan. So I chose to not send my student there because there was no plan. But now they got a building, they confiscated our building, they took it away from the students who have always been there. We don't even get a vote. You know, there is no communication. My son is losing several friends, and their families are done with this fight. And I don't blame them. There are so many vacant seats right now because they are tired of not being listened to. You know, finding out through an email that my daughter's school was closing is disgusting. And if you had been there to hear her sobbing and her crying, asking, why are they doing this, Mom? Where are my friends gonna go to school? What's gonna happen to my teacher? Why are they doing this? I don't know. That's all I could say is I don't know. You know, it was comparable to the death of a family member. It's cruel, and she does not understand. She is losing everything. My son is losing everything. I had to sleep next to her. She constantly talks about it. Your emails are full of lies. You don't understand the significance of your decisions. You're not committed to transparency. Mr. Witt, you're overemployed. You don't even live here. You are working 2 full-time jobs, making 2 salaries, working halfway here. You know, the costs of financial responsibility that you talk about are lies. You are doing everything without any communication. I conclude by saying to the board, don't forget who works for you. You are not, you know, this man is not your boss. You are his boss.
Ma'am, your time is up. Thank you.
And that is it.
Speaker is Andrew Heitzelman.
Hello, and thank you for your time. First of all, I have to concur with her on that. When we heard the news, me, my son, and my wife have all shed tears over this horrible decision. Let me get started. In Colorado, we learned that where there's smoke, there's fire. A couple of years ago, we got a new superintendent and a new school board members. Then we get a new school out of the blue as a gift. Here's where the smoke starts, in the form of a Trojan horse. We were hesitant on the new neighbor, but dealt with it as it took some of our middle school a bit more smoke. We scratched our heads and said, okay, let's give it a shot. Then the 6th grade gets kicked out and sent back to elementary school after they had already had a tour of the middle school. More smoke. Then talks of shutting down Gateway scared a good percentage of the staffs and students away, which, by the way, giving tours during class was not only cruel, it was unnecessary. Smoke is getting thick. Then all of a sudden we get a never mind and a whole new staff gets rehired, minus the strong staff that decided to stay with us. Things are starting to look good with the new principal who's amazing, and once again we get lucky enough to have an awesome staff with teachers and everything, almost like the fire has stopped. But it was just the wind shifting, because next comes the wall of fire. Gateway has announced once again it will be closing. The 7th and 8th grade are getting pushed into the high school. Who thought it was a good idea to put 7th and 8th graders around the same stresses and temptations high schoolers do? And for what? To make more room for the Trojan horse. See, all of you are missing something here. You don't know what Gateway is. Gateway isn't a monopoly piece that you can buy and trade. Gateway is getting on the field and handing out water for the fun run, cheering on your favorite runner. Gateway is smelling popcorn on Popcorn Friday. Gateway is going to the gym to see what coach has in store and maybe ask him if that was his Bowser costume. Gateway is getting together on the floor of the gym in our PJs to watch How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Gateway is love, friendship, and warmth you can't find anywhere else. Sorry, I'm a little choked up. So I say, let's save Gateway and the middle school and get rid of the fire starter. We were lied to. Nothing's been transparent. Merit has somehow been getting larger because our superintendent Witt is strangling all the other schools, claiming he doesn't want strings attached. What about the strings attached with merit? Bottom line is, if we are tired of getting lied to, we're tired of getting stepped on, the fire needs to be put out. The rude comments to our teachers, the heartless comments regarding our children needs to stop. Why has the superintendent's salary not been consolidated? Why does he make $40,000 more than average? Why does he get $500 to travel? The fire has gotten too big, it needs to be put out.
Next speaker is Lorraine Merle.
Again, I didn't really plan on speaking tonight, but I am not shocked, but I cannot believe what is going on with some of you folks up there. And I just want to say, here we are again. Everything, in my opinion, is top secret with some of you folks up there. And I'm not on the email list, but I hear immediately the decisions that you folks are making, and it's not in the public. And I have asked all of you up there to talk to me about that and explain why you cannot make this public, and none of you up there will answer me. You stay silent. And I went back on meetings for the last year and a half, and when you feel like making a comment to the person speaking, you do it. But I think what's happened up here is you have talked amongst yourself and said, we know Taki Tulareg for 2 years. And I see you guys out in the public, how any of you could have gone out after that decision was made to close Gateway, and any of you be even seen in the public. I'd be selling my house if I was part of on that decision. And I am appalled. And I have never spoke out to any of you like this before, but it is to hear children crying in the grocery store that weekend, to be able to talk to the parents and hear the parents crying, and what do we do, and what email is going to come out next on a Friday. And all of you are looking at me, and I can't even believe you can face me. And especially you, Mr. Witt, where the very first meeting you bullied me, and that was right up there at the table. And I've never approached you on that before, and that's why I have never spoke to you and never will again. And I want to thank this crowd for the time that you have put in and some of the comments of lack of transparency. Thank you.
Next speaker is Matt Galowski.
Hello, my name is Matt Galowski. I'm a parent, and guess what? I want to talk about lack of transparency. Heard a lot from me about that. That's your next 3 minutes. Last summer, you guys spent over $250,000 of grant money in a way that the board never approved of. This impacted the current fiscal year budget in a way that resulted in the panic we saw at the middle schools last January when the after-school academic program was canceled due to lack of funds. Find the money to restart that. I know it's not clear to me if this was illegal, it's unethical, but it was not transparent. Just this week, our superintendent signed a statement where it seemed like he was implying that the violation of open meetings law was a justification for violation of the records law. I don't know, did two wrongs make a right in your book? The founder and chief executive of Faster Colorado died last August to help get 2 of you guys reelected. Then they were rewarded with your business a couple weeks after that. The invoice for that security training they provided, it was sent to the home address of a district administrator, not the district's main office address. Is that transparency? Then there's the decision to one woman posted on Facebook that the first she learned of this was when she, as a parent, received an email that other parents received announcing this news. If I was a board member and the superintendent unilaterally decided to close a school, I would be pissed. Yet you guys are not upset by this, which is clear that you guys had a conversation with the superintendent outside of board meetings about closing Gateway Elementary. Where's the transparency in that? You've driven out a lot of students, and the exodus is looking to continue at the end of the school year. Consolidating schools is not a crazy idea. I admit that. You've mentioned a fiscal emergency. Yeah, I mean, we've all watched you guys squander a very, very healthy surplus with no financial plan in place, no long-term financial plan. So yeah, of course we're in a fiscal emergency. You created it. I'm not saying closing Gateway is the wrong decision. I don't know. My problem, what's wrong, is the way you went about it. This isn't a one-off occurrence. This is the 3rd time. First you move sixth grade, then you move seventh and eighth grade, and now you close Gateway. The same pattern every time. Surprise announcement without any community involvement. So the process that I, as a parent, would expect is just a little bit of community input and discussion. We don't make the decision, you do. But we just want to be we are stakeholders. We want to be heard. What I would like to see is the district approach parents with a plan, outlining the pros and cons, the details of how it would be implemented. Like say, these are going to be the first grade classrooms. And then seek feedback, not just from parents, but teachers as well. And then the board would vote. Is it really too much to ask for from a public body such as this one? Thank you.
The last speaker is Carol Greenstreet.
Good evening. I would like to bring a concern to you about the budget. When questions were raised at the last meeting about changes in the budget, I noted other inaccuracies were still present. Considering recent comments about fiscal concerns of the district, I thought you would be interested in looking into the budget a bit deeper. While I believe there are several concerns, and believe me, I think school finance is so hard. So hard, and I really go against Ms. Ryan, but there are a couple of glaring errors that concern me. I'll point to two inaccurate revenue sources. These are easily accessible on the CDE website. Your budget has property tax listed as $12,339,354. CDE lists it as $10,543,365. A negative difference of $1,795,989. Your budget has rural district funding listed as $452,044, which is the exact same as last year. Since there are fewer students, that should have been a red flag that maybe that was incorrect. The amount listed on the CDE website is $382,316. A negative difference of $69,728. Again, school finance is hard. I believe you may make some of that back up with the state equalization, which appears to be incorrect as well. However, for my calculations, you will still be almost $1 million off in revenues. Accountants should look into that. For those of you who are new to governing, in the past years, the Board of Education has always received a presentation from the auditors. This allowed us as members of the board to ask questions and request suggestions for improvement. That was not allowed this year. From your recent retreat and the agenda, it seemed there's a renewed interest in board policies. My hope is that integrity will drive you to change or recognize all policies. The executive expectations are under board policy. In light of the decision made by the superintendent, I'd like to read EE6, Community Relations. School districts and their communities share the common goal of creating a safe, welcoming, supporting environment for children so that they might become productive members of society. The superintendent shall promote a healthy two-way approach to communication that can be used as a vehicle to build trust, confidence, and support that ensures a symbiotic relationship between our community and our district. In this, the superintendent shall establish and maintain effective links with the community and key communicators to ensure they are kept informed as to the status of the district, including but not limited to sharing district news early, often, and thorough. There are 3 more. You can read them for yourself, and I would encourage you to.
All done?
Yep.
Okay, thank you all for your thoughts. The consent agenda. I'd ask for a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
A second.
Roll call, please.
Barkley. Aye. Bates.
Aye.
Kimbrell. Aye. Patterson. Aye. Rusterholz.
Aye. Thank you. Next item, under discussion, information. the board governance policy review, that is, Form GP4, Board Communications. We did just go through this at our retreat, and there wasn't any suggestions at that time. I open this up for discussion. Does anyone have any concerns with what are currently our board communications?
You're just asking if any concerns in just,
Well, we're just,
policy
this
of,
discussion.
Whether we would want to edit this or continue, or if there's something we need to change within it.
okay, okay.
As I said, we did go through this at the board retreat and went through it item by item. And it seemed everyone was comfortable, and it sounds like that again. Any other comments?
I would like to just ask, I think that on all of the governing policies, having a discussion about them and seeing if there's anything, a self-evaluation where we openly and honestly discuss, how are we doing? And where can we make improvements? And what do we hear from the community in regard to our governing policies? So I would just like to ask, or is that something that, I know the previous boards used to have that, something like that, I believe, but do other boards do that, self-evaluate their performance?
I think that's pretty common. Yeah, and this is one that, the policy is about, board self-assessment, so.
I'm sorry, I wasn't
Which is
talking into the
why
microphone.
we bring these up every year in the same policies to discuss them and
We
talk
go
about
through
them.
all of them. I felt like we did cover it pretty well. We hit on some items at the retreat that were potential things people needed to recognize and adjust. So from my perspective, I felt like we did handle that.
Okay.
Thank you. The sales,
I'm sorry, are we doing an assessment now, or we're going to do a self-assessment at another time?
well, I've just opened it up for discussion. This is not an action item today.
Right, okay.
Okay, it's just to go over the policy, and I didn't hear any.
I think it's a good policy. I just wanted to know if we were discussing how well we were adhering to it today, or if we were gonna discuss it at another time.
Do we have any recommended edits that you might wanna add to it?
No, I think as written, it's great.
Yeah, I think it's.
Well, we are expected to adhere to that as a board,
Mhm.
all parties. Anything else?
No, and we did
this-
discuss it, I thought that we did discuss it pretty well, and there were some, some pushback, and, I thought that
At the
it was
retreat.
pretty good at the retreat. And I did appreciate that.
Well, there've been occasions that we've had to pull that up and revisit it. I mean, this isn't something you just look at once a year. This is something we always monitor ourselves to make sure we're staying in line with these policies.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, I'm sorry, that my question still wasn't answered. Are we going to do an evaluation at another time, or are we doing an evaluation right now?
We are not doing an evaluation now. If someone has suggestions, bring them to the board and we'll discuss them. Okay?
You're talking about adding.
Well, suggestions I don't wanna change it, right? We're supposed to, self-evaluate whether we're adhering to them. But I don't know that now is the appropriate time. So I was just asking, are we going to do that at another time?
I think she's suggesting that at some point you probably end a self-evaluation.
Or a working
All right, I
session or
follow. I
something?
follow.
Yeah.
Would
not
edit
argue that-
and
Yes,
add it to
we
the
would put that
agenda.
on as an agenda item
Okay.
if we wanted to talk about adherence to the policy.
Okay,
Right?
okay.
I think,
Adding it.
I believe you expressed that you thought you did that at the offsite this year.
I believe we did.
When we went over this one, I thought that we discussed it,
GP4, GP7.
yeah.
Okay, so we'll do an evaluation at another time. Okay.
We should add that to an agenda in the future to do that, but this one was specific to just recommending any edits. GP4 board communications and part of the reviewing of this month. So,
Right, and there being no changes, it's up to each of us personally to honor those policies and follow them. And we certainly remind one another whenever there is an issue, in my opinion. All right, thank you. Okay, the sales tax update. We met with the city on, what was it, February 29th. We had it was actually a very good meeting. I mean, there had been a lot of accusations out there, and I think all parties involved felt like we made progress there. We did increase the payment to the city. We used to pay $4,500 a year. This was back in 2016. That amount has been raised to 1% of the tax collected. So, I mean, that's a $32,544 expense for that administration by the city. Now, let me say this. That was put on the table, as well as the annual meeting. Since COVID, that had kind of fallen off. And we as a board made a commitment that we will reinitiate those annual meetings. The paperwork called for on July 15th of each year. And we did suggest that we do it earlier in the year. I mean, school's out on July 15th. And there was agreement on that. And there used to be a 5-year review on this. That is being changed now to a 3-year review. We'll do that annual budget every year to provide it to the city council. But then every 3 years, we'll sit down and have a meeting similar to what we just did on February 29th and assess where we're at with regards to the verbiage of that IGA. So the attorneys are working on some final issues. I don't think we have any stumbling blocks on this. Everyone has been very cooperative. It's just a matter now of them finalizing it and then signatures on it to move ahead. And did I miss anything?
No, that's a really good summary. As far, and
Well-
you said we were going to, it said to meet in July, but I think we talked about meeting in, June, was it? Was it
It was May, yeah. And the city was open to that. Like I said, it was nice to see the cooperation in the room, particularly after some of the side comments had been made, and everyone came to that meeting in a cooperative mood, so it went well. Thank you. Okay, next item, core knowledge language arts curriculum by Ms. Slocum. Ms. Moore is out of town, and Ginger is very capable and said, of course I would do that.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to start with just kind of a big picture look at the new curriculum that we're getting for language arts at the elementary levels. So I'm going to start with talking about the 5 components of reading. These are all focused on in core knowledge language arts: phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. These are also the same skills that kindergarten through 3rd grade teachers are tested on for the new READ Act laws that are in place, and it's also very important skills for our kindergarten through 6th grade students. Some of the strengths of the program include a lot of the information here is based on foundational knowledge. It also builds strong vocabulary skills, which students are tested on quite a bit during CMAS tests. It expands background knowledge, which helps our students with comprehension skills. And it also includes units. The units include skills and work and listen and learn portion for our primary students. A few other strengths that are not up there from my own professional opinion include it's, from what I've heard, it provides a very strong, solid foundation for our primary students, which also aligns with our elementary schools' unified improvement plans. And it also focuses on building background knowledge, strong vocabulary skills in literature, history, geography, and science. And this ultimately helps our intermediate students score higher scores on their end of the year assessments such as CMAS. as we embark into this new curriculum, some of the professional development that we will be providing include trainings at the beginning of the year with all the elementary teachers and staff. We will check in on progress in October. Usually during those October PD days, we get together and we also give the teachers time to collaborate and talk about what's working. And it just gives them time to see how to improve their instructional practices. We also will offer follow-up trainings throughout the year, and we are working on scheduling those dates right now. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions in there?
May I add one thing? I just want to recognize Mrs. Slocum today. She is taking her first dip into the Chief Academic Officer role that she's stepping into in the following month. We appreciate her stepping up today and covering for Kim Moore while she's gone, but we really appreciate her taking on this role, and I am very delighted with the energy that she's putting into it.
Thank you.
I do have some questions, although not necessarily for you, because I know you kind of stepped in after the decision was made. So more just around the decision-making process, because I know the last time when the school district went through and they decided to go with into reading, they had a whole committee get together that included teachers and parents and community members, people who were actively using the curriculum. They came together, they kind of decided what their values were, what they were looking for in a curriculum, and then went through all of the approved curriculums to pick which one lined up with that, and then presented that to the board and the school to make that decision. So just curious what process we went through this time. Obviously that wasn't the process we used this time.
I can speak to
Mr. President, Mayor Jessica.
You can speak to it.
Oh, okay.
Kim shared some of that information with me, and I was also part of that process.
Oh, great.
So in early summer, Kim did order several different English language arts samples. All of them were reviewed for content, depth, and rigor. And then Ken shared that it was important that the new curriculum be based on core knowledge for the ability to build background knowledge, which does increase student comprehension skills. We did discuss this at different elementary principal meetings. Some of them were individual, some of them were together in a team. Not everyone agreed, and that's pretty normal when you're looking at different curriculums. My professional opinion from the feedback I've gotten from my teachers, specifically at Columbine, when HMH was adopted, we didn't have very many teachers in that process because at that point we were using our homegrown literature-based program. And we were at that time told we could keep using it. And then as things changed, we moved into that curriculum. Our scores dipped.
Which is normal, right? When you implement a new curriculum, it's normal to see a dip for a couple of years.
Yes, but I will also say that some of the gaps that we noticed right away were in the primary grades and really focusing on phonemic awareness. I would say definitely our kindergarten through second grade was missing some of those foundational pieces, and we recognized that right away.
Okay. And those foundational pieces would be like phonics, because that's sort of
yes,
different from the science of reading.
And when we switched curriculums, we definitely, we taught HMH with fidelity. And so I would say that was a majority of my staff were very concerned, but we made a commitment that we were going to teach it with fidelity, and so we've continued to see some of those gaps. Did that answer most of your question?
Well, some of it, yeah. So mostly it was Kim and maybe yourself reviewing things and deciding from there.
And Jenny, and we had conversations
with
together.
Teachers were included in the conversation?
I had conversations with my staff, and it was just as much about gaps we were concerned about with the curriculum we were currently using.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You're saying last time when the HMA was, chosen teachers may have not been a part of the conversation prior to us maybe
There
the
were,
one-on-one.
there were lots of teachers that were part of it. My teachers specifically, there were a few on that committee, but we were planning to continue using our literature-based program that we'd used for years.
Yeah, I mean, it was my understanding that Summit kind of implemented it more thoroughly right away, and saw their test scores starting to climb. Is that accurate?
I would, if that's what the test scores show, then yes, I didn't review Summit's test scores specifically.
Ms. Patterson?
Yes, I would like to address that. I was on one of those committees for the math, and I think it was early 22. And our prior academic officer, they did decide, and it was never brought to the board for approval. Administration.
Yeah.
Administration did approve it at their level, and it was not brought to the board.
I misspoke when I said board before, but I corrected myself to administration, so that's what I meant.
Anything else?
Do you have any questions?
Was there any more time left on our current curriculum that we had paid for, or did we run through that? Because I was also under the impression that we had purchased 8 years worth and only utilized 3 of them.
Yeah, let me speak to that. There absolutely are 4 or 5 more years, depending on who you ask, but I believe there are 5 more years on the current curriculum purchase. If we wanted to stay with an inferior system, we decided to move to a curriculum that was stronger, has a better track record, and will better educate our students. And we believe that that's the priority, and it's worth spending the $300,000 that we spent to move forward with that now.
I did want to just ask you, just for everyone else, the community and everyone to know, what grades will be using this new language arts program?
So at this point, I know for sure kindergarten through 5th grade is using it. My experience I was a 6th grade teacher long time ago, and we did use classical literature to teach 6th grade. I believe as we are still making sure that our 6th grade students get that same rigor, and they are at a different level and have different needs than kindergarten through 5th grade. We work with literature, and we use any novels that we read at our level are from the approved list from the board. I would assume that we would get together as an elementary team and collaborate about that, probably in May.
Okay. In your new upcoming role, congratulations.
Thank you.
Is this a program that is designed to build on and take all the way through the 12th grade? Or tell me how language arts works in regard to that. How?
Well, I would say that this program definitely builds the strong foundational pieces that students need in order to learn their ability, like their reading skills. And then as from my own experiences and also from what I've learned about core knowledge so far, is the building of background knowledge really helps students in all areas, not just reading, but it also goes into those informational and nonfiction texts that they will need for the rest of their lives, and especially as they move on into older grades such as their science and ability to read.
Yeah, you mentioned history, geography, and science.
Yep.
So, okay.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Is this the same curriculum that Merit is using as well?
I have no idea.
I don't think. Yeah.
I'm actually not certain, but I would speculate yes, because they're a classical academy, and it's very common for classical academies to use core knowledge as well.
Yeah.
Next item, the elementary school consolidation. Mr. Salt, I spoke to him, and I wanted to share some facts prior to his going down that process. I want to share some facts, thoughts about the elementary school consolidation. This conversation has been taking place with the administration, the board of education, and the community since the long-term decline in enrollment. Enrollment in public schools has been declining throughout the country. We are no exception. In 2021, the previous board hired a company called Cooperation Strategies to do a thorough analysis of our facilities, their usage, and underutilization. The rollout of their reports were done in great lengths and detailed over a series of presentations in 2022. There was a presentation in February the 22nd of 22, March 29th of 2022, and April 12th of 2022, and May 17th of 2022, that they presented to the stakeholders this program, and not this program, these facts. We are now seeing these same projections of declining enrollment and are at a crossroads. We cannot continue down the road of hoping we can maintain the operating costs of underutilized buildings. These detailed reports were clear in their outcomes. The reports show that we either maintain all buildings at an estimated cost of $37.2 million over a 5-year period. It has already been a few of those years. Or the report says we merge grades 6 through 12 together and merge 3 elementary schools into 2. This was all part of that research and that study on our fiscal situation. I want to offer my sincere apologies for any confusion over this consolidation effort. I wasn't on the board when this study was done, but I was close and I heard it, and it was very thorough, and that was their recommendations. You know, they said over in the next couple of years we were going to have to make some changes, and if enrollment didn't increase. So here we are now. Know that this district will be here for you. Silence, please. The kids and the staff. These reports can be seen on the Woodland Park School District webpage. Under District, scroll down to Facilities Master Plan. The entire study is in there, and it was well done. So if you ever have questions about it and how we got from there to here, please take the time to go look at it. And it's a worthwhile thing. So I do want to say that this wasn't just a knee-jerk reaction here recently. This is something that has taken place over a period of time, and you know we've got to be fiscally responsible. And it was time to make some difficult changes, which they suggested would have to take place. Thank you. Mr. Salt?
All right. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to come and speak this evening. Just want to throw a quick disclaimer before we get into the rest of this presentation. A lot of this is preliminary. The slide deck was put together for your board packets for the meeting last week that we were having to get rescheduled with the weather. Have not gone through to update this slide deck. So some of the stuff in here we may have had decision on. Much of it we have not. So I just want you to know that there might be some additional. We're a week further than we were when this was put together. So just caveating that with the disclaimer. All right, so first I wanted to talk about what we know and kind of what helped lead us to this particular decision. The first one is we have multiple classrooms as we're looking at projections for next year that would put us under 15 kids per classroom in several classrooms. And that is a really difficult ratio to maintain, especially for any length of time. Gateway had projected only 1 class per round for 1st through 6th grade, which would leave over half the building unutilized or underutilized. And so with this consolidation, what we're looking at would be class sizes anywhere between 18 and 25. students per class, which puts us about 80% classroom capacity across the district. Staff reductions is something we're going to have to look at through this process. It's not the exciting part, not a fun part that we have to talk about, but it's a part that we do have to talk about. Our goal has been to notify folks before spring break. We're going to do our best to make sure that that happens. We will know tomorrow if we're going to be able to do that, or if we're going to have to, if we're going to be able to make that deadline. The goal is, and high confidence level, we'll be able to. We've heard a lot of concerns from the community, and this is a consolidation. This is not exhaustive by any stretch of the imagination, but these were a lot of the consistent themes that we've heard, or that the board members have brought to us that they've heard in the community as well. So those are the ones that I wanted to make sure we addressed directly here. First of all, we have a 30-room class at Columbine right now. That is an anomaly. That is an exception to the rule, not the rule itself, number one. Number two, we actually offered to provide a second class for that, but the teacher really just wanted to have it there and just get an extra pair to help with the district. And so it was cheaper to have one classroom with 30 people in a pair than it was to have two classrooms below that 30 mark. So we stuck with the one classroom. Another concern is classroom space in large classes. As I showed on the previous slide, we're looking at classrooms between 18 and 25, which is a really optimal ratio when you're talking about class sizes. There are classrooms across the district. I've talked with the elementary principals as recently as yesterday about space utilization and how we're able to manage these classrooms. And there are absolutely no concerns from the principals themselves as far as being able to manage this and still have plenty of space to make sure that we're able to maintain programming the way that we have it currently. Part of that, I'll jump to the next line, there's the SPED and the PLACE program. We are still looking and trying to figure out if it's going to go to Columbine or Summit, where there's some arguments in both directions. And so we haven't made a final determination, but that's going to be probably the next decision that we make is where that, specifically the PLACE program is going to land, because that's going to take up a couple of different classrooms that we'll need to make sure is separated out from the normal first through sixth classroom spaces. There's some equipment that we'll have to move and some additional plant or facilities maneuvering that we'll have to do to make sure that those rooms are set up and ready to go. And so it's one of the longer lead times. Once we get that in place, it's one of what I like to call like the anchor pieces, and that's one of the anchor pieces that we have to get right. And then we'll be able to pull the other pieces around it. There were some concerns about lunch times at the elementary. My kids, the elementary school they go to, they serve lunch from like 10:30 in the morning to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And so it's fairly common to have somewhat early lunch periods all the way through to make sure that you're able to accommodate each of the grade levels and that they can have their own sort of space, all the kinders first, all second, all third, and so it kind of spaces out. There's been zero concern from the staff and even the building leaders about lunch times and how that's going to play with the additional student count coming into those buildings. The last piece on here that I wanted to talk about was the pre-K. We do have 7 pre-K classrooms currently today. We have 2 at each of the elementaries, and we have our EC Place program. EC Place will go in the same place that the other Place program will be, so all of our Place program will be at the same building. And so what we're going to do is maintain our 2 rounds of pre-K at either or at both of those other locations. That brings us to 5 pre-K classes. With that, we also have Merit that is adding additional 30 pre-K seats. So we're going to be almost the exact same number of pre-K seats offered through public school entities today or next year that we do currently. So there's about a 10 seat difference, I think, is where we're going to be roughly in availability. So it's pretty close. Those are all the slides that next steps. Meeting to discuss staffing and to start notifying personnel. We've already begun those conversations, but we have not made decisions. We'll have decisions made tomorrow as much as we can, and then we can start the process of trying to get all the notifications out before spring break. Meet with elementary principals. I did update that because I met with them yesterday. Had a really good talk about kind of how things are moving together. And everyone seems to be on the same page as far as where we need to go, and how we're gonna be able to manage this. Again, very few, if no concerns really from the building principals as far as being able to accommodate this, well within building capacities. Then we're gonna start notifying vendors. We have our Toshiba, real exciting stuff here. The Toshiba contract is coming up for renewal. We have big giant printer machines, copiers at each of the buildings. And so we'll be able to reduce the number of those because we won't need them in the buildings. Just as an example, there's other vendor pieces that we'll need to notify as well that we're just consolidating. We'll just won't have as many, buildings won't have as many phone handsets and those types of things. And then maintenance.
Can you repeat that? I didn't hear that. The building will not have as many what?
Handsets, like phone handsets. Because we won't have as many because we'll be taking the ones out of Gateway and we won't have any district-run phones at Merritt Academy. It's currently in middle school. And so we'll be able to reduce the number of handsets that the district needs to be able to maintain from our phone structure to be able to support normal district operations. And then just normal maintenance reviews. Real exciting stuff when we get into the facilities and maintenance and how all of that's gonna be able to maintain moving forward. A couple of other notes that I just wanted to toss out. We are going to do our absolute best that when people have choice, I was talking to a parent the other day that lives in the Summit Zone and their kid currently goes to Columbine. We're going to do our best to honor those, but I cannot make any guarantees that will be the case next year. But we're doing our best to accommodate that as much as we can. With that, we do have the total opportunity transportation, so we can bus students to anywhere within the district. So there is opportunity to attend any school as they need without being a burden on the parents to be able to commute and drop their kids off or pick them up. And then the general plan from a class space is to have 2 classes per grade level with a couple, like kindergarten, we know we'll end up with 5 kindergarten classes. We're projecting 5 kindergarten classes for next year based off our preschool numbers. But we'll have 2 rounds at each grade level at each building, and then we'll be able to put 3rd classes, likely at Columbine, as we see the demand grow at those grade levels. So we'll respond to enrollment that way. There is room to be able to expand those to 3 rounds in some strategic ways without any concern. So that's all of the rambling that I plan to do at this point. Any questions I can answer?
Oh, go for it.
And you
Ladies first.
you were discussing the districting and where kids live and can you just kind of talk through that? Because I think there was some confusion when the email first went out. It said that you can kind of choice into whatever school, but now we've redistricted, so kids have a home-based school. Can you talk through that and clarify?
Sure. Excuse me. The process has not changed that students can choice into whatever school they would like. The boundaries of what their home zone is changing just a little bit because we no longer have the Gateway population, which mostly ran through Woodland Park proper. Most of that was dedicated to Gateway. We have, most of that is now being zoned into Columbine. There were a couple places that were zoned to Columbine that make more sense to zone to Summit. Couple places with Gateway that make more sense to zone to Summit, and so it's not a significant deviation. To speak in generalities, if you were zoned for Gateway, you were likely zoned for Columbine. There's about a 10% variation off of that. And I misspoke. I don't believe anyone who was already zoned for Columbine is getting rezoned. I think everyone who was previously zoned for Columbine is still at Columbine. The only changes were around Gateway. Some of them went to Summit, the majority of them went to Columbine.
Did you send out notification to those families where they were now, where their new home was?
We had she was the attendance secretary that was at Gateway that reached out to families to talk to them about what those opportunities were and where they would like to attend.
So all the families have been notified where their new homeschool is?
I don't know what the exact script was. I just was talking to her and she said that she was contacting the families that had already registered for Gateway to see where they needed to go for the enrollment.
Okay.
And then everyone else would see that through the enrollment process.
Okay. I might suggest that we just send out notification to all the families who were previously zoned at Gateway where their new homeschool is so that they don't have to search all over to find it.
Sure, thank you.
Sorry, Keegan. Anyone else?
Yeah, I do.
Mr. Reyes?
Thank you. I have just a couple questions, but let me follow up on these questions first. If a parent's child is currently going to Summit, but they live in a Columbine zone, will that child continue to go to Summit or maybe not?
We are not making any guarantees. We are going to try to accommodate as much as possible. In that particular situation, likely if you have choice into Summit, you'll be able to maintain at Summit because we expect most of the influx to be into Columbine. And so anyone who is opting out of Columbine into Summit will likely be able to maintain their enrollment at Summit.
Okay, so that puts my next question up into a question mark as well, that if a parent has a child in the 4th grade and then their brother or sister is coming in, they would want their kids to go to the same school. Well, I would anyway. So then that is a big question mark as well. So I would like to pose to you, and we'll follow up with my next question, that if children are currently going to one of those two schools and they live outside of the boundaries of those schools, that you make accommodations that they stay in those schools. If the parents want them to. I mean, if the parents want them to go to a different school, then by all means, let them go to a different school. But very strongly, I would say, we have a duty to keep those kids at their school that the parents, if they're currently going there. If they've gone there for 3 or 4 years, I mean, I would not want my kid pulled out and go to another school. And so I'm just petitioning with you, please keep the kids at the same school.
Sure. So
if I may respond to that for a moment. We have an enrollment process. The process itself isn't changing this year. So it's what it has always been. The boundary, the default boundary for a new enrollment will be published shortly. It hasn't been published yet. It's not on the website yet, correct? The new boundary for Gateway and, I'm sorry, for Summit and Columbine.
I don't believe it's on the website.
Thank you. I don't believe it's published yet. It will be published shortly. As parents enroll, if it's a new student, default school that is closest, but they have always had the opportunity to request attendance at a different school. And we will continue to honor that by capacity. For students that are currently enrolled already in a school, we will do everything we can to maintain that arrangement. We don't want to move students, but the students from Gateway clearly have to find a home.
Understood.
So that's where the majority of the motion will occur. There is, however, a capacity limitation. Columbine can only hold so many. And many of those Gateway students are in town, so you can't send them all to Summit, right? So there may be some boundary determinations that have to be made to make it for a reasonable balance between the schools. So there is some work to be done there, and we will work with parents on it. But we will absolutely prioritize leaving students where they are everywhere possible.
My choice.
Okay. Yeah, that was my concern, and I apologize that I got kind of passionate about that, but I just want to make sure that if your child is going to one of the elementary schools, other than Gateway, of course, that they continue to go there if that's what the parent desires. So.
Anything else?
Yes, I do. I have
a lot of questions.
May I?
Yeah, you may.
Thank you. One of the things, and Aaron, I really appreciate your presentation, so I did not mean to come across adversarial, just passionate. The community is concerned, I hear quite often, about how these decisions are being made and how collaborative they're being made. Quite a few times during your presentation, you said that we are deciding. For instance, we are deciding to, how things will be structured within the schools. How extensive and wide is the we in that? Can you describe the we? I heard you say you talked to some principals just yesterday. So would you please elaborate on that for the public and for the board?
Sure. So when I'm talking about how we are configuring this and we're trying to make these decisions, that is primarily myself, Ms. Moore, who will be turning into Ms. Slocum shortly, and then working with the principals. We've engaged some of the other district personnel, such as our facilities team. We've had we've had conversations with a lot of the school-based leadership as well as the district leadership.
Okay, so when you say school-based leadership, are you talking the principals, or are you and I would guess if you're talking to the principals in turn are speaking with their staff and key people within their schools, I would suspect. Do you know that to be true, or?
So I don't know who all they're talking to. I know when I engaged with them in like our meeting yesterday, they had perspectives from their teachers and other staff within their schools. So I take that they're engaging in these conversations with their staff.
Okay.
Can I piggyback off that question real quick while we're on the topic of what we equals? Before, obviously you went to the principals and the facilities teams after you made the announcement to close the school. So what I would like to know is who was part of the we that decided that the school should be shut down? Because if you do read through the facilities packet, the two options that they gave was to shut it down and consolidate, which the survey showed the district did not want, and to do the repairs. And they actually recommended doing the repairs unless the school district took the steps to communicate with the community and talk through it and build momentum and get their buy-in. So that we didn't follow that recommendation. So I'm just curious who was part of the we that decided to make
I'll
that
respond to that.
I'm sorry, I missed part. The we that decided
to close Gateway.
Okay. Rather than a different school. Okay.
Or to fix it.
Okay.
Mr. Witt? I'll respond to that. You're conflating two issues, so let's separate the issues for a moment. One was a determination of which would be the better path to accommodate the facilities concerns.
Mm-hmm.
We're not responding to that pressure. We're responding to the pressure of insufficient students to justify 3 schools. To solve the problem of insufficient students to justify 3 schools, the answer is reduce the number of schools, not fix one.
You still haven't answered who the we is.
You were just giving 2 comparisons for choices, and there's only one choice.
I was wondering who made the decision when 2 choices were provided.
The administrative team in analyzing enrollment projections
So who
and the
is
clear
that?
necessity. The buck stops right here.
So you made the decision.
The final decision is mine.
Okay.
The administration helped me arrive at it. In fact, I wasn't even the one who first came up with the discussion. The point is, it was a full administrative discussion.
Well, that's good
But
to
it's
know, because the
clearly
first time I
a
heard about the
requirement.
decision was the press release. So this is why I'm asking these questions.
And that is the answer. And no, fixing a building would not have been an option to solve the problem.
Well,
interesting.
And that would gear to my question on how much it costs to facilitate and maintain these buildings. We were in the DAC building, we're talking about repairs to the roofs and repairs to the elementary and just the operation cost of that and the printing and the materials for the school buildings and for every building. So do you have a rough estimate
Ms. Ryan pulled that information for me at the middle of last week, right before what would have been the board meeting last week. I neglected to bring that with me. Ballpark, I would say we were around 85,000 year to date, if I recall. And that is from a facilities, utilities, perspective.
Not including personnel or
Correct, it is-
any of, printing or the paper, the supplies, or with anything within there.
Correct.
Cause that will cost extra, just because we were in the DAC and we were talking about this, so. And what all of the schools need, speakers, there's so much within our district that we have to repair. Okay.
Can I ask just a follow-up for clarification on Cassie's question? In repairs and issues like that, that's one issue, but the whole umbrella, do you know, are you prepared to say, what is the total savings to the district by consolidating schools and not having Gateway open?
We are not prepared to have that conversation yet because of the staffing implications that we're still working through. The best I can tell you would be the hard cost of actually having the building operational, which, like I said, best I can remember was in the 80,000 year to date.
Look, Nick, I just wondered if there was, just to ask you, because you set the meetings, if there was a time that perhaps I would just like to hear a presentation on what's our actual savings going to be.
We'll be able to present that at the next meeting.
Okay, that'd be great.
We're just not quite there.
Got it.
So next meeting.
I'm so confused by, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You know, I
Might have been her hand. I didn't
this
see
up,
it.
one last comment, and
Oh.
Cassie, and then.
Oh, no, I have a lot more questions about this. This is the first time we're having a chance to discuss this. I don't think we should end it closely unless we're asking the same questions over the top, right? That's what we talked about in our board.
I'll ask one more question and then if you have some more, if that's okay. Okay, so we have 80% classroom capacity, from the facilities report, they were talking about how a lot of our schools are at 60. And is this, a good sweet spot from what we've heard previously in the years? They were talking around like 75, 80%. Is that sort of where we're at with it? And then just real quick to add on, I had a parent just ask about the 6th grade break room. Is that still there with the lockers? Is there anything going to be changing with that or that we know about?
We haven't gotten into the locker conversation. That'll come once we have a better idea of what the enrollment's going to be for next year.
Okay.
Sorry, what was the first part of your question?
Just like the sweet spot number of like having 80% classroom capacity
So-
versus, because we were, looking at 60 prior, 50, and so I vividly remember, the coordinator talking about that, the facilitator talking about 75 to 80%, and that would be a good sweet spot, which is why she recommended the consolidations of some of our schools.
Sure. 80% seems to be a really, I'll say, average target. If you look at other districts, they'll have policies anywhere from 75 to 85% capacity that they're trying to target. Again, that's a target number.
Yeah.
So 80% is really kind of in that sweet spot.
For the average of other school districts as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Barkley?
Thank you. Do we know what parameters, I know you haven't made staffing decisions yet, but how you're going to make those decisions? Is it going to be based on tenure or success or how are you gonna make those decisions?
So this is part of the conversation that we're engaging in actively right now. Many of the grades, so we have a handful of teachers that were marked with very low performance that are probationary teachers. And so if they're not effective teachers, we don't want them to maintain their role in the classroom. If we have a couple grades that will be overstaffed sometimes by 2 teachers because again, we're at 15 kids per classroom. So we're showing that we're already spread thin in some very specific grade levels. I don't have the information with me right now, but generally speaking, we would look at who are the least tenured teachers
Okay.
in those grade levels. That's about as much as I think I can say right now without trying to, it gets to be a pretty sensitive conversation.
Yeah.
It's a personnel discussion.
Right, yeah, I didn't want, names or
A
anything.
couple data points for you of what we're looking at and how to make this decision.
And I would just add one other point, if I may, and that is, of course, in a couple of cases where there's a grade where we have a shortage and another grade where we have an excess, there'll be some offers to transition to another grade.
Oh, that's good too. I was gonna ask about that. You know, we've had some positions open for the whole year to make sure those get filled by the teachers we already have. Okay, good. And then this question is kind of more for the board in general. I know I've mentioned that I didn't hear about this until the press release actually went out, which I don't think is an appropriate form of communication. So I just wanted to, did you know about this before?
No,
This was an administrative decision. I didn't have a lot of forewarning. However, I was just sharing, this has been a discussion that has gone on for many years. I mean, I've heard bits and pieces of that.
Right, to actually pull the trigger. When did you hear about it, Nick?
Day before.
Okay, what about you, Cassie?
The press release, and so I was at a funeral that day and read it, so.
The day before.
Okay, so, you know, we were discussing our board communication policy earlier. So I do want to bring up that, you know, we did discuss at that retreat that all board members would find out this information at the same time, right? That's why we go through the channels that we do, so no one has information ahead of time. So I would just kind of highlight that as a failure as a board to adhere to that particular policy.
In my response to you today, did you see it? Mr. Witt and I have sat down and had a conversation about this with the intention of improving this issue.
That's good.
I do have another question, if I may.
Well, if Ms. Barkley is not.
Oh, if you're.
I'm good, you can go now.
Okay. You had said earlier that consolidation is we're not unique to this or closing schools. I understand that there are some schools that are nearby here that have closed significant number of schools. Can you address that? Can you address, have you looked into the process that they've used? I know Jefferson has had some issues. Could you speak to that at all, or Mr. Witt?
Let me speak to that. Yes, we're in the process of ensuring, with the assistance of attorneys, that we are following the accepted and compliant process to work through this.
Okay.
And they have the benefit of having done this in other places.
I understand that is it Jefferson that closed over 10 schools?
Was it Denver?
Jefferson County, I believe, closed 11 elementary schools. In Colorado in the last 3 years, I believe exactly 30 schools have been closed. The CDE reported that 0.2%, there was a 0.2% decline in district-run public school enrollment over the last year, but that's a deceptive reporting. At the same time, the student age population in Colorado increased by 0.6%. So if in fact you look at the numbers with some discernment, 0.8%, nearly 1% of students in Colorado are leaving district-run public schools. And I believe that a significant portion of that is dissatisfaction with some of the laws and some of the practices that are being mandated on district-run public schools of late. The parents are losing some of their trust in these institutions. I would 100% underscore that in Woodland Park, we make certain that parents are first and foremost in the education of their children and that they're involved in all educational health for their kids.
Quiet,
I
please.
don't know that we're actually doing that.
I actually know of someone that was at a different district and they had their kid in, without telling the parent, they had their kid in therapy and was talking to mental health professionals where we signed a resolution stating that the parents would have first. So they're actually looking back because they live closer just out of like closer to a different county line, and so it was just interesting hearing that they were dissatisfied because they felt that they had administration and stuff sneaking around behind them, so.
Our principals
to
and
your
counselors
point.
are quick to reach out to parents to involve them in decisions about their children.
May I have the?
Go ahead, Sue.
If I understood you correctly, you said there's one class per grade at Gateway?
Projected for next year based off of our current enrollment numbers.
How can we hold the school together with one projected classroom per grade? I totally support the decision that Mr. Witt has made because we can't survive. These decisions should have been made prior to this board coming. But they haven't. I feel he's making the right decision. And we wouldn't be able to survive having a school that holds how many, 450, 500 children? At what, 15% at capacity? That's bad management right there.
I just thought of one more question, if I may. Yeah. What is the plan for the Gateway building?
That is the $1 million question.
Indeed.
So I'm going to answer it. There is no plan for the Gateway building. It is not committed to anything for next year.
Okay.
And I think it would be prudent to pay attention to the enrollment trends and make certain that we have contingency should things change. And so there is no commitment for that building for next year.
Okay.
We can certainly use it for modest things, but again, part of the savings is not employing that facility. But there are no plans for the facility.
Okay. But if with a building, right, you can't just leave it totally unattended, right? There are still going to be costs in
There are minimum
some
costs,
maintenance, yeah.
Yeah, I had some questions about people saying, oh, you have plans to sell it or different things like that. So there are no plans to sell the building or to lease it out or that there's another charter school that's moving in tomorrow or anything like that.
There are no plans for that building, correct?
Okay.
And I had heard prior to even many elections, they had talked about closing Gateway even way before us, like a decade ago, I don't know. And 2012, and they were talking about putting in Pikes Peak College, and people were asking us like what we're gonna do, and we were just like, listen, we're just gonna wait, check enrollment, and check out, because I asked after the press release.
I'm sorry, I was on the board and no, we didn't discuss that.
Did not.
Well, that's what
Ma'am,
the community was talking about.
Your speaking
so-
time is done. The can has been kicked down the road on this issue, and it also occurred in maintenance of the building. Budgets are tight, but for the past 20 years, the air handling units didn't work and various other things, and it makes all the sense in the world to condense the buildings in use down and take good care of them. It's not an easy thing to do.
The person who actually contacted me was a prior elected official during that time, so.
So I think, a lot of and this is just a comment, but I think a lot of the frustration is if we had had this conversation, going over these numbers, discussing what the plan was, having public comment, having teacher comment, having parent comment prior to making the announcement, that would have been a better way to handle this. And it seems to be.
Thank you, Mr. Salt. Thank you. Okay, there being no action items, Board of Education reports. Has anyone got a report? Mr. Witt?
I do.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, Reggie, tell me.
I was waiting. Gentleman second. I've had an opportunity, I put out to ask teachers or principals to go and visit different schools, and I've had a wonderful opportunity to do that at a couple of the schools. And I have to say, I am so impressed with the passion that teachers have and the way the problem solving that our principals from the top down at each one of our schools do things. And I had a wonderful tour yesterday. Mrs. Slocum took me around and showed me around Columbine. And what a great time that was. And I would encourage other board members to reach out to the principals and go do it and see the great things that these teachers are doing in the classroom. And I just, it's not just being able to teach. It's these teachers, their heart and souls go out to these kids. It's like they're their own family, their own children, and I am just so heart touched by the great people that we have working at the schools, and how collaborative they are, and the things that I heard and how they work together. And then not just how to work together as employees of the district and teachers and at the schools, but if one child has a problem and they're struggling with a certain issue, that goes out, and how can we all work together to help this one child? And so I have to tell you, it gives me goosebumps to tell you, to even just to talk about it and then to visit. I'm so honored to be able to go and do that and see the amazing job that these men and women are doing with our kids. And I just want to thank them. I want to thank Mrs. Slocum. What a great leader we have over here. And just all of them, and just amazing. So that's my report.
Anyone else?
Mr. President, I would like to speak.
Yes.
Director Kimball and I attended a BOCES board meeting last night, and we're proud and we're happy to inform everyone that we offered a renewal to the director of SPED, Marcy Palmer, her contract for another year, and she has accepted. And I think we're very fortunate to have her. I just wanted to give you an update on the BOCES. And
to continue with that, she is really invested and interested in staying with in consolidation with Gateway and the PLACE program and making sure everything runs smoothly. Like, she knows the ins and outs of the special education, the kids that need it throughout the whole district and within the UPass district. And so we're very excited to have her just continue that and want to be a part of it because she cares so much about these students.
Thank you both. Mr. Witt?
I don't belong in the board reports. I just want to add a district perspective on the last 2 points, and that is that we very much appreciate Marcy Palmer and the UPass BOCES and the work that they've done for us. They've been prompt to work through issues with us as needed. They've been great at working through staff challenges that we're experiencing statewide in SPED staff. The level of cooperation when we've identified problems, the level of work that they have put in making certain that all of our students are well served is appreciated, and I'm glad that you extended a contract to Marcy Palmer again.
Thank you.
The athletic programs are near and dear to my heart, particularly football. My grandson plays ball here. But they had a meeting here about, what's it been, 2, maybe 3 weeks ago now. And that coaching staff stood up there and welcomed those middle school students in. And the way it was before, they had to be bused down here from the middle school to play ball. And the coaches are excited to have everyone under the same roof now. And there's some cross-teaching that can take place now for these students, but because they're all under the same roof. Not everyone gets to see, we're talking about these fine teachers and coaches. And it was very uplifting, that meeting. And I saw enthusiasm and joy in those kids' eyes. They're excited about it. So I enjoyed being there. Anyone else? Ms. Barkley.
I just wanted to call out that Columbine is having their Grandparents' Day tomorrow, and all of the kids will be performing and singing, and the grandparents get to go around and visit the school or the parents if the grandparents are too far away. And I know my 3 kids are really excited about that tomorrow, and thankfully I'll be able to go, and my mother-in-law will be able to attend, so we'll try and split our time, but it's a really exciting, fun time for them, and they just really love it. So wanted to call that out. And then I just had one other thing, just kind of going through the gateway closing. Some of our seats elected were based on districts. I'm just curious how that's going to affect elections.
That's a misconception. Your seat elections aren't based on districts for allocation to schools. They're based on geographic districts for election boundaries.
Mhm.
The two aren't actually coupled.
But will it change
So-
anything because you had to live in the gateway district?
Right, and,
or
and,
Columbine district?
and changing articulation areas for a school district has nothing to do with elected districts. Your elected district remains the same.
So it'll still be called the gateway district?
The title doesn't matter, it's not the name, it's
Yeah.
actually A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
I have the
Still
same
in-
question after.
You're still in the same district,
Okay, just curious if that was
with the
changing
same
at all.
boundaries.
Anything else? All right, the
Enjoy
last,
the spring break.
last item, board information reports. Any reports?
No more.
All right. There being no other business, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Barkley,
Aye.
Bates,
Aye.
Kimbrell,
Aye.
Patterson, North River.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Those teachers you let go, enjoy that spring break too. Pardon? It's gonna be great. Community members get to go. That'll be awesome.
Respect your own process.
All right. See you later. It's good to see you.